Chapter 5067. I didn't expect Bewitching's array to be so powerful. It can even withstand the attacks of these beasts. If we had known, we wouldn't have ended up in such a situation. I heard that this is Bewitching's first time using such an array. He must have overlooked this point. I have to say, in terms of survival ability, none of us are their match. As one of the cultivators spoke, the crowd fell silent. If someone had said this before, everyone would have refuted immediately. However, after experiencing these hellish days, no one had the strength to refute. This was because Bewitching and the others were indeed in a much better state than them. From the beginning to the end, they had never seen Bewitching and the others despair. On the contrary, they were always filled with hope. Just like how Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care about everyone's gazes, even though she had never sung before. Just like how Bewitching didn't have any scruples when he used the array for the first time. If it had been them, it would have been very difficult for them to do so. When the cultivators of the D family heard the crowd praising their young master and young madam, they felt a wave of pride in their hearts. This was their young master and young madam. They had completely crushed the leaders of the other forces. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou had always wanted to deal with their young master and young madam, but now it seemed that they couldn't compare at all. Hearing the crowd's praises, they only felt proud. If they could return this time, their young master's reputation would definitely soar. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was cultivating, suddenly noticed that Baisher's aura was a little unstable. She couldn't help but open her eyes and ask with concern, "Baisher, what's wrong?" "Master, I'm on the verge of a breakthrough," Baisher said in a low voice. During this period of time, he had been hoping to break through to the nebula realm and transform into a human form. However, although he felt the barrier to the nebula realm, he was still a step away from breaking through. He didn't expect that during the process of hunting beasts, with the continuous influx of pure origin energy into his body, he could actually break through. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with surprise. "That's great." Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Xiao Xuanzi's eyes also flickered with excitement. In that case, White Lion can finally transform into a human. They had been looking forward to seeing White Lion in human form. After waiting for so long, they finally got the chance. After a brief moment of joy, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression became slightly heavy. This situation is not suitable for you to break through. According to what she knew, it would take a long time for the White Lion to transform into human form. During this process, he needed a stable environment where no one would disturb him. On the contrary, the environment they were in couldn't be worse. Baisher nodded. "That's right. I'll let you enter the contract space. You can break through in peace there." Contracted beasts had their own contracted space, and this space was not restricted even in the immortal cloud secret realm. However, only contracted beasts could enter this space. Others couldn't. Although Xiao He and Xiao Bai were her contracted beasts, their situation was a little strange. Since the beginning of the contract, they didn't have a space that belonged to them. "But Master, the situation is so critical now." Chapter 5068. Seeing Baisher's depressed look, Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and rubbed its soft fur. "Don't worry. Leave this to us. Nothing will happen." The previous situation was indeed very dangerous. Baisher's combat power was also very strong and could be of great help to them. However, now that they had this defensive array, they would be safe for a short period of time. The opportunity to break through was not always available, especially for demonic beasts. Breaking through to the nebula realm was a hurdle. If they did not break through now, it would be even more difficult to break through next time. She did not want Baisher to miss this opportunity. "Baisher, don't worry about this place. Leave it to us. Nothing will happen," Xiao He said. "That's right. Don't you believe in our strength?" Xiao Bai said. "Don't worry. By the time you come out, all these demonic beasts will have been dealt with by us." Xiao Xuanzi patted his chest confidently. "Master." Baisher was still a little hesitant, but Bailey Hongzhuang rejected him without hesitation. "Don't think so much. Go quickly. If you continue like this, we will be anxious." In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang did not wait for Baisher to speak. and directly put him into the contract space. Time gradually passed. As the crowd continued to inject their essence force into the defensive array, the array continued to persevere and showed no signs of breaking. Everyone could not help but feel happy when they saw this scene. They finally saw hope. The situation gradually stabilized. Even when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others completely recovered, the defensive array was still holding. Seeing Di Beichen exit his cultivation state, everyone's faces revealed flattering smiles. Di Beichen, I didn't expect your array to be so effective. It's all thanks to you this time. That's right. In short, I will remember this kindness. Everyone spoke one after another. They had thought that they would definitely die this time, but now they had a chance to escape. The joy in their hearts could not be concealed. Everyone, don't be so polite. I was also trying to save myself. Feeling everyone's enthusiasm, a smile appeared on Di Beichen's face. Beichen, in this situation, can we still go out and hunt demonic beasts? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Just now when she was cultivating, she had successfully broken through again. Originally, if she wanted to break through again, it would be extremely difficult for her to do so in less than a few months. However, it was precisely because of the pure energy obtained from hunting demonic beasts that actually helped her break through another level in such a short period of time. It was really a pleasant surprise. If they could go out and hunt demonic beasts to increase their strength, it would undoubtedly be the best. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen immediately understood her plan and nodded. Wait, I'll set up a new array. When Zi ran, and the others were also concerned about this. After seeing Di Beichen start to get busy without saying anything, they looked at each other, wondering what kind of Zhen formation Di Beichen would arrange. Now I feel that following you husband and wife, the future is really bright. Ziran stretched his waist, his gentle face rippling with a lazy smile. That's right. Hongzhuang and her husband are really amazing. If we follow them, we don't have to think of a way out. How great. Chapter 50-69. The next moment, Di Beichen began to set up the array again. Looking at him seriously drawing the array pattern, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but smile. A serious man was always particularly charming. The others looked at Di Beichen's movements and felt confused. They couldn't understand it at all. Ta Xing, I think I should learn another ability when I go back. What do you think? Di Xiaofeng said to Lin Taxing next to him, as he watched Di Beichen draw the array pattern. Lin Taxing nodded slightly. I think so. Then it's settled. You should learn one too. The next time we go out together, you can use it. I don't think I have any talent in other aspects. Lin Taxing hesitated. Then why are you so confident that I can do it? You are Beichen's elder brother. You should at least inherit some of his talents. Soon Di Beichen had set up the new array. With the same flash of light, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others already knew. I added another array on the basis of the original array. It will make the original array more stable, and we can attack from the edge of the array. If we can't resist it, we can retreat into the array. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes lit up. This method was really good. Beichen, your move is really amazing. Di Xiaofeng gave him a thumbs up. If we seize the opportunity here, I think my cultivation can be improved by another level. Lin Taxing also nodded with a smile. Yes, my cultivation hasn't improved for a while. Now I can feel the barrier of a breakthrough. Then, the others no longer hesitated and quickly walked out. If they didn't hurry to improve their strength now, when would they? The other cultivators were also very envious after seeing this scene. However, most of them were seriously injured and couldn't fight at all. They wanted to, but they didn't have the strength. If we can't get rid of this kid as soon as possible, I'm afraid he will soon surpass us with his hard work. A haze appeared in Chu Yingming's eyes. Normally, when they cultivated, although they all wanted to increase their strength, there was still a bit of laziness in them. However, from the eyes of Di Beichen and the others, they could only see the desire to improve their strength, not the slightest laziness. Let's heal ourselves as soon as possible. After we recover, we may be able to leave here. By then, Jun Lingsun winked. The situation that Di Bei-chun and the others were showing now also made him feel a sense of crisis. He only hoped that after going out, they would be able to completely solve it. Nangong Yuqing nodded quietly and immediately entered the state of cultivation. In the past, he only regarded Di Xiaofeng as an opponent, but now unconsciously, Di Bei-chun had become the most troublesome guy. While he was cultivating, he couldn't help frowning. For some reason, ever since he was heavily injured, his recovery had been extremely slow. Not only that, but even his cultivation speed was affected, which made him very depressed. Could it be that the monsters here are so strange? Chu Yingming thought to himself, then shook his head helplessly and continued to cultivate. Chapter 50-70. Just as everyone was concentrating on killing the beasts, a sudden movement in front of them attracted everyone's attention. "Look, what's that?" Shangguan Yingying exclaimed as she looked in front of her. A circular rune suddenly appeared in front of them. It was shining brightly like a black hole, but it wasn't black. Everyone looked at this sudden change in shock. Their faces were filled with nervousness and caution. In this enigmatic place, the slightest change could cost them their lives, so they had to be careful. This thing appeared out of nowhere. Could it be that it saw that our situation was getting better, so it's causing trouble for us? Lin Qianqian frowned. It wasn't easy for them to breathe a sigh of relief. If something happened again, it would be infuriating. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others silently took a few steps back and returned to the array. Before they figured out the situation, it was obviously the safest way. But soon, everyone saw the situation clearly. As the dazzling light disappeared, several figures appeared in everyone's line of sight. When they saw the figure clearly, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. Yunyan. Di Xiaofeng looked at the figure in front of him in disbelief. He couldn't hide the joy and excitement on his face. Bailey Yunyan was also panicking when she saw the beasts around her. But she suddenly heard Di Xiaofeng's voice. She turned around and found that Di Xiaofeng was in front of her. She was pleasantly surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around and found that the people behind Bailey Yunyan were also disciples of the Bailey family. Quickly save them. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, everyone reacted. But Di Xiaofeng had already rushed over. The beasts were already very annoyed when they couldn't take down Bailey Yunyan and the others for a long time. They were pleasantly surprised and immediately rushed over. Fortunately, Bailey Yunyan and the others were very close to Di Bei-chun and the others. In the face of danger, their reaction speed was very fast. So they entered the array very narrowly. "Yunyan, are you okay?" It wasn't until they entered the array formation that Di Xiaofeng let out a sigh of relief and quickly sized up by Li Yunyan's body. Bailey Yunyan shook her head. Her face was also pale. Obviously, she still had some lingering fear. "I'm fine, but what's going on here? Why are there so many demonic beasts?" "It's a long story. I'll tell you in detail later." Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with joy. These days, he had been worried that something might have happened to Bailey Yunyan. Every time he thought of this, he felt uncomfortable. Originally, he had thought that there was no hope left. However, when he suddenly saw Bailey Yunyan appear, he felt as if he had suddenly ascended to heaven. He felt incomparable joy. Bailey Yunyan nodded slightly. Feeling Di Xiaofeng's gentle gaze on her, she felt a burst of sweetness in her heart. And in this sweetness, she even felt that the surrounding environment didn't matter. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, nothing happened to the Bailey family, so she was relieved. At this moment, Lin Yi's voice sounded faintly. "Cousin, your hand is injured." Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan was taken aback. She pulled Di Xiaofeng's hand and noticed that there was blood on it. Chapter 50-71. Bailey Yunyan's delicate little face was full of concern and nervousness. She asked quickly, "Is it serious?" Di Xiaofeng smiled and shook his head. "It's just a flesh wound. I'm fine." Bailey Yunyan immediately understood that he must have been injured when he was helping her just now, but she was too careless to notice it. "Sorry, I didn't notice it." "It's okay. This little injury doesn't get in the way at all." Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. He had been injured many times recently. As long as he applied Bailey Hongzhuang's healing medicine, He would heal quickly. Lin Chanqian and others couldn't help but look at Lin Yi with concern. In fact, among so many people just now, only Lin Yi noticed that Di Xiaofeng was injured. From this point, it could be seen that Lin Yi still cared about Di Xiaofeng. Lin Yi noticed Lin Chanqian's gaze and smiled immediately, indicating that she was fine, but her eyes were still a little red. "Miss Lin, are you okay?" Ao Lingxiao had been standing beside Lin Yi. He naturally knew about the matter between Lin Yi and Di Xiaofeng. During this period of time, he knew that Lin Yi's temperament had always been very lively, but after the appearance of Bailey Yunyan, this expression was a bit far-fetched. Lin Yi shook her head, but her eyes were getting redder and redder. "I'm fine. I'm not injured. What can happen?" Ao Lingxiao nodded slightly when he saw this. His figure suddenly moved and stood in front of Lin Yi, blocking Di Xiaofeng's figure. "Didn't you say that you want to improve your cultivation? Now is the best time." Just at the moment when Ao Lingxiao blocked Di Xiaofeng, a drop of tear fell uncontrollably. She quickly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, then looked at Ao Lingxiao gratefully. "Brother Ao, thank you." Ao Lingxiao smiled faintly. "Silly girl, I want to thank you for taking care of me these days." "You are right. It is more important to improve my strength." Lin Yi straightened her face. "I am going to hunt the beasts so that I can help you take back the family clan." After Lin Yi rushed out, Ao Lingxiao also rushed out. "You have risked your life to help me take back my family. Of course I can't lose to you." "Haha, you're right." Lin Chanqian and Lin Taxing couldn't help but look at each other after seeing this scene. Originally, they were worried about Lin Yi's mood. They didn't expect that with Ao Lingxiao accompanying her, there was nothing for them to do. "Ao Lingxiao is becoming more and more pleasing to the eye," Lin Chanqian said quietly. "I think so too." After Di Xiaofeng bandaged his wounds, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask, "Yunyan, how did you guys come out from there?" As soon as he said that, everyone looked over. They were all very confused about this point. "Not long after we entered the Immortal Cloud secret realm, we discovered an inheritance. After that, we stayed in that inheritance until we found an exit. When we came out, we met you all," Bailey Yunyan explained. Hearing those words, the crowd looked to one another in dismay. However, they also understood that Bailey Yunyan would not deceive them regarding this sort of thing. "From the looks of it, you guys are the luckiest among all of us," Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Everyone felt the same way. They had encountered too many dangers along the way. Chapter 5072. Not only did they not get the treasure, they almost lost their lives there. Needless to say, if there was a slight mistake, they could have lost their lives at any time. On the other hand, Bailey Yunyan and the others got the inheritance. Although she did not explain in detail, everyone knew that since they could come out of the ruins, they must have gotten the inheritance. "Yunyan, your cultivation has improved a lot." Di Xiaofeng sensed Bailey Yunyan's cultivation. "Looks like you got a lot of benefits in the ruins this time." Bailey Yunyan smiled and nodded. "I did get a good opportunity this time." "That's good." Di Xiaofeng did not ask in detail. As long as they got the opportunity, it was a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang also smiled faintly. She also hoped that the Bailey family could become stronger. In the past, the Bailey family was one of the most powerful families. But now they had fallen to such a state. When she died, there were too many things that she did not make arrangements for. Her heart was filled with guilt. Although thousands of years later and thousands of years ago were completely different, and no one remembered her existence, she did not care. Because her soul belonged to the Bailey family. As long as the Bailey family could become stronger, she would be happy to see it. "You guys go in and rest for a while. You must be tired." Di Xiaofeng looked at the people from the Bailey clan and led them into the encirclement. Bailey Yunyan and the others did not refuse. In fact, they also wanted to know the current situation. As soon as Bailey Yunyan and the others appeared, a look of astonishment appeared on the faces of the cultivators. Why did the Bailey family suddenly appear? If you guys did not appear now, I would have forgotten that you guys were in the team. Jun Lingshuan mocked. The Bailey family could not help but stare at him angrily. When they saw the injuries on Jun Lingshuan's body, Their eyes changed slightly, and they were gloating. The Bailey family has been in decline for so many years. Finally, a woman came to the Lin family. Isn't it too unrestrained to send herself to the Lin family? A woman's voice rang out from the crowd. Her voice was filled with mockery and ridicule. Isn't that 100 Miles Cloud? Usually, he has an otherworldly appearance, but after meeting Di Xiaofeng, his performance is completely different. Isn't that obvious? Why don't you think about the gap between the Bailey family, the Di family, and the Lin family? As long as one can rely on Di Xiaofeng, it's equivalent to relying on the two great clans. Who wouldn't seize this opportunity? Listening to everyone's ridicule, Bailey Yunyan's face gradually turned pale, and the hand that was originally grabbing Di Xiaofeng's arm also gradually loosened. She bit her lip and lowered her head. She suddenly felt that she couldn't raise her head in front of everyone's gazes. She wanted to explain that she really liked Di Xiaofeng, not that she wanted to hook up with him. However, she was even more aware of how feeble her explanation was. It was completely useless. No one would believe it. The gap between them was simply too great. Just like when Di Xiaofeng said he liked her, she couldn't believe it herself. Now she believed it, but the others couldn't change their minds at all. Chapter 50-73. Bailey Yunyan's face was deathly pale. However, when she heard this, a glimmer of light appeared in her dim eyes. Di Xiaofeng has always been the object of many women's hearts. Although Chu Yingming and the others were also young masters of their families, they couldn't compare to Di Beichen. Before Di Beichen had appeared, Di Xiaofeng was undoubtedly the most handsome young man among the group of young talents. After Di Beichen appeared, the two brothers were evenly matched. However, since Di Beichen was married, many people gave up on this idea. Moreover, from how much Di Beichen spoils his wife, it was impossible for him to marry someone else. Even the next saintess Xiao Soa was rejected. Naturally, no one else had the courage to challenge him. This was simply an impossible task. Di Xiaofeng was different. He didn't have a marriage contract. Even if everyone knew that he and Bailey Yunyan were close, no one thought that they would truly be together. This was because the gap was simply too big. After understanding how much Di Beichen spoiled his wife, the women's impression of the men from the Di family deepened. No matter what, at least the two were brothers. It was said that the head of the Di family also spoiled his wife. As long as she could marry Di Xiaofeng, she would become a treasure in his heart. Who wouldn't want to marry such a man? Now that they saw Bailey Yunyan standing next to him, they naturally didn't show any mercy. Di Xiaofeng, you don't really want to marry her, do you? Nangong Yuqing looked at Di Xiaofeng with a playful expression. What does that have to do with you? Di Xiaofeng coldly glanced at Nangong Yuqing. His handsome face was as cold as ice, like a glacier in the north, without the slightest bit of warmth. I'm just concerned about you. The corner of Nangong Yuqing's lips rose into a roguish smile. Bailey Yunyan, you shouldn't overestimate yourself. At this time, Xiao Soa glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang standing behind Bailey Yunyan and said, although you both have the same surname, the gap between you two isn't small. That's right. Di Beichen likes Bailey Hongzhuang, because Bailey Hongzhuang is worth liking. Apart from your face, what else do you have to show? Everyone ridiculed. Perhaps it was because they weren't as lucky as Bailey Yunyan, so they were especially jealous when they saw others. What's wrong with Yunyan? What did she do to offend you? Do you need to be so rude? Bailey, you couldn't help but ask. We didn't say that she was wrong. We just said that she overestimated herself. At this time, a man behind Nangong Yuqing suddenly laughed and said, are all the women in your Bailey family overestimating themselves? Is that girl Bai Li still trying to kill herself? Bailey Yunyan, who originally had her head down, suddenly raised it after hearing this. She looked at the man with a burning gaze. Could it be you? A trace of surprise appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. In the past, she had treated Bailey Shi's illness. The girl's heart knot was very serious. If she hadn't done everything possible to help her, she would have died long ago. However, no matter how she or Bailey Yunyan asked, Bailey Shi refused to say the name of the man who betrayed her. Chapter 50-74. That's right, it was me. Nangong Xiaolong's face was filled with pride, as if he didn't think that there was anything wrong with his actions. Do you know that because of you Xi'er almost died? Bailey Union couldn't hide the anger on her face, her beautiful eyes almost spitting fire. Bailey, she was her closest sister, and the two of them had grown up together. Now, because of Nangong Xiaolong, she had been driven out of the family and lost all hope. Thinking of her pitiful appearance, Bailey Union couldn't help but feel sad. However, the culprit still had a smile on his face, and didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. What does her death have to do with me? Nangong Xiaolong's face was indifferent. She didn't think about the gap between us. It's fine if she's just playing around, but she actually wants me to marry her. How is that possible? Bailey Union's face was ashen. If you can't marry her, why did you promise her? I only said it casually, it was just a joke. If she believed me, she can only say that she's stupid. Nangong Yuqing suddenly understood and couldn't help but ask. The woman you mentioned before is from the Bailey family? That's right. I met her when I was training. She's not bad looking, but she's a bit too stupid. Nangong Xiaolong, are you still speaking human words? The cultivators of the Bailey family were filled with anger, and one of them couldn't help but rush forward and grab his collar. Do you know that because of you, Xi'er was driven out of the family and almost lost her life? No matter what, she was sincere to you. As long as you still have a bit of humanity, you shouldn't say such things. Having his collar suddenly grabbed, Nangong Xiaolong's face turned ugly, and his eyes flashed with anger. He waved his hand and slapped the other person's hand away. Let go of me. Tidying up his wrinkled clothes, Nangong Xiaolong continued. She was the one who wanted to kill herself. What does that have to do with me? Then all the girls who adore me have to commit suicide. Is that my responsibility? I heard that. She's pregnant with my child, right? Hearing Nangong Xiaolong's words, the faces of Bailey Union and the others turned extremely ugly. Nangong Xiaolong, do you have to do this? Bailey Union angrily said. For an unmarried woman, such a thing would definitely be looked down upon by everyone. The reason she hadn't brought this up was to save Bailey Shi's face. However, she never thought that this damned man would actually say it out loud in front of everyone. As expected, there was an uproar when everyone heard Nangong Xiaolong's words. Having feelings for each other wasn't a big deal. However, having a secret pregnancy was a big deal. This is the truth. Nangong Xiaolong smiled. She can only blame herself for not being reserved. Perhaps all the women in your Bailey family are like this, haha. Nangong Yuqing and the others couldn't help but chuckle. They were more than happy to embarrass the D family. What did you say? Bailey Union could no longer control her anger. She rushed forward and shouted, I will kill you today. Seeing Bailey Union rush forward, Nangong Xiaolong didn't show any fear. He blocked her attack with one hand and pushed her back. Chapter 50-75. Nangong Xiaolong was one of the top disciples of the Nangong family. Although he wasn't as strong as Nangong Yuqing, he wasn't much weaker. Naturally, dealing with Bailey Union wouldn't be difficult. Bailey Union's face was pale. She secretly swore that as long as she found the heartless man who hurt Xi'er, she would kill him with her own hands. However, now that the other party was in front of her, she wasn't strong enough. Thinking of this, she hated her own powerlessness. At this moment, Di Xiaofeng directly knocked Nangong Xiaolong down with a punch. Then, am I strong enough? Di Xiaofeng's eyes were as sharp as knives. His entire body exuded a strong murderous aura. A bright light shone on his body, dazzling him. At this moment, the tyrannical and terrifying aura wasn't concealed in the slightest. His domineering aura was enough to crush everything. Seeing Di Xiaofeng like this, everyone's heart trembled. Di Xiaofeng, you? Nangong Xiaolong didn't expect Di Xiaofeng to suddenly attack. Caught off guard, two of his teeth were knocked out, causing him to speak with a lisp. A scum like you should have died long ago. Di Xiaofeng's murderous aura didn't weaken in the slightest. He had also seen Bailey Shi. At that time, Bailey Shi's zombie appearance was deeply imprinted in his heart. A good girl suddenly seemed to have lost her soul. How could he not feel distressed? However, this scum in front of him actually dared to talk about it. He wasn't worthy of being called a human. Di Xiaofeng, stop. Nangong Yuqing immediately stood up after seeing Di Xiaofeng attack. Are you bullying my Nangong family? Di Xiaofeng sneered. I saw that your Nangong family had a beast to deal with, so I helped you deal with it. Don't go too far. Nangong Yuqing's face was gloomy. My Nangong family's people are not for you to teach them a lesson. What if I say I have to teach you a lesson? Di Xiaofeng's gaze was ruthless and merciless. His slightly raised eyes narrowed, revealing endless killing intent and threat. Then you'll have to go against my Nangong family. So what if I can't? Di Xiaofeng stomped on Nangong Xiaolong's body. It's not like it's the first day we can't get through. Seeing Di Xiaofeng like this, the cultivators of the Nangong family all stood up. It seemed that today's situation was very difficult to resolve. Xiaofeng, cripple this scum first. Lin Taxing said. Di Xiaofeng nodded and increased the strength of his feet. He wanted to take Nangong Xiaolong's life. Nangong Yuqing moved and attacked Di Xiaofeng. If Nangong Xiaolong was killed in front of him, where would the Nangong family's reputation go? However, Di Xiaofeng kicked Nangong Xiaolong in front of the Bailey family. Seeing this opportunity, the cultivators from the Bailey family would not show mercy. Not only did this damned guy humiliate them in front of so many people, he even treated Bailey Shi like this. They only wished they could kill this guy. Bang bang bang. Everyone immediately started punching and kicking. You bastard. Go to hell. I'm going to kill you. You don't deserve to live. Chapter 5076. Big brother save me. Nangong Xiaolong couldn't help but wail. This situation was completely out of his expectations. He didn't expect that Di Xiaofeng would attack him in order to help Bailey Yunyan vent her anger. Now that he was surrounded by so many people, he didn't even have the chance to stand up. How depressing. Di Xiaofeng, get out of my way. Nangong Yuqing roared. However, Di Xiaofeng didn't care about him at all. He continued to block Nangong Yuqing's way, not giving him a chance to escape. Nangong Yuqing was about to die from anger. In terms of strength, he was comparable to Di Xiaofeng. However, Di Xiaofeng was blocking him, so he couldn't get past him. Most importantly, the number of cultivators from the Di clan and Lin clan had already exceeded theirs. Nangong Xiaolong's wails were getting louder and louder. His internal organs were about to be displaced by these people. It's better to just kill him. Lin Qianqian's eyes were cold. Although she didn't have any relationship with Bailey Shi, as a woman, she couldn't stand such a heartless man. He had broken a woman's heart and completely ruined her life. Yet he was still acting so carefree and complacent. If he didn't pay the price, the heavens wouldn't tolerate it. At this moment Bailey Yunyan said, "Don't kill him. I want him to kneel in front of Bailey Shi and admit his mistakes." Even though Bailey Shi's situation had improved, she knew that if she couldn't completely open the knot in her heart, Bailey Yunyan would never be able to live again. She wanted this man to kneel in front of Bailey Shi and beg for mercy, repenting his mistakes. Perhaps this way, Bailey Shi would be free. Hearing this, Lin Qianqian's eyes flashed coldly. That's too easy for this guy. Nangong Xiaolong, who was originally worried about losing his life, was relieved after hearing this. As long as he didn't die today, he would seize the opportunity to teach these people a lesson in the future. Before Nangong Xiaolong could rejoice, Lin Qianqian directly stabbed her sword at him. Didn't you say you wouldn't kill me? Nangong Xiaolong was dumbfounded. He had just gotten a chance to breathe, so how could his life be in danger again? However, the next situation made Nangong Yuqing feel that it would be better to just kill him. A tragic and heartbreaking wail rang out, revealing a deep sense of despair, and it clearly entered everyone's ears. Nangong Yuqing and the others were stunned, not knowing what was going on. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Lin Qianqian in surprise. They didn't expect Lin Qianqian to be so decisive as to cripple Nangong Yuqing's family jewels with a single strike. Lin Qianqian remained calm despite everyone's stares. This kind of scum only knows how to bully women. It's better to make him unable to be a man, so that he won't harm others in the future. Lin Yi nodded in agreement. Sister, well done. Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but be dumbfounded after seeing this scene. She indeed felt that Nangong Xiaolong was hateful, and this thought had also appeared in her mind. However, she was still somewhat afraid of actually doing it. She did not expect Lin Qianqian to be so domineering. When she came back to her senses, she was delighted. Chapter 5077. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang placed a pill into Nangong Xiaolong's mouth. Nangong Xiaolong covered his bloody wound with one hand and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock, his face turning pale with fright. "What did you feed me?" "Poison," Bailey Hongzhuang coldly replied. "What did you say?" Nangong Xiaolong raised his voice, making it sound as sharp as a duck. "Why did you feed me poison? You were supposed to die today, but I wanted to give you a chance to repent to Bailey Shi. How could such a shameless scum like you ever have a moment of sincere repentance? Let me tell you, if you don't come with me, you'll lose your life." Bailey Hongzhuang's deep phoenix eyes rippled with a cold light as she stood up and clapped her hands. She looked as if Nangong Xiaolong was some kind of filthy thing. The cultivators present looked at Bailey Yunyan, Lin Qianqian, and Bailey Hongzhuang's smooth plan and actions. They couldn't help but sigh. "I didn't expect a woman to be so ruthless." Everyone sighed. However, they didn't have much sympathy for Nangong Xiaolong. After all, this guy really went too far. "Bailey Hongzhuang, how dare you poison Xiaolong?" Nangong Yuqing's eyes were burning with rage. If looks could kill, Bailey Hongzhuang would have been killed 1,000 times over. "So what?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Nangong Yuqing with disdain. "Your family likes to raise scum like him. But since he provoked us, he naturally has to pay the price." "Damn it!" Nangong Yuqing cursed. His complexion was ashen. His Nangong family was a well-known family in the world, but he didn't dare to offend them. But now, the other party didn't care about their reputation. Not only did they cripple Nangong Xiaolong's manhood in front of everyone, they even brazenly poisoned him. If he couldn't get justice today, where would the Nangong family's face go in the future? Looking at Di Xiaofeng and the others in front of him, he knew that his team's strength wasn't enough. He immediately turned his head to Jun Lingxuan and Chu Yingming. "Come and help me." Hearing Nangong Yuqing's words, Chu Yingming and Jun Lingxuan looked at him. However, the two of them only watched without showing any signs of wanting to make a move. "I won't mistreat you." As soon as he said this, Chu Yingming and Jun Lingxuan's eyes shone with a satisfied light. Naturally, if he wanted to help, he would have to offer some benefits. In the next moment, the cultivators from the Chu family and the Jun family stood up and confronted the people from the Di family. Seeing this, Morong Jing could no longer sit still. He immediately led the cultivators from the Morong family to stand up as well. "What? You want a group fight?" Morong Jing sneered. "We'll accompany you to the end." "Di Xiaofeng, today's matter was started by you. If you don't give me an explanation, this matter won't be over." After finding a helper, Nangong Yuqing's confidence was boosted. "If it's not over, then it's not over." "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Di Xiaofeng sneered. "Who started the trouble first? You know in your heart." "Di Xiaofeng, don't be too arrogant." Chapter 5078. His calm voice was laced with a hint of threat, giving off an indescribable pressure. "That's right. I admit that your D family's strength isn't weak, but you can't use your power to bully others." Jun Lingxuan also spoke out, his deep eyes rippling with a malicious light. He had always been looking for an opportunity to teach them a lesson. As long as he could turn the D family into an existence that everyone despised, that would be the happiest thing for him. "What do you want then?" Di Beichen raised his eyebrows, a playful look on his bright and handsome face. "An eye for an eye. As long as Di Xiaofeng kneels down and apologizes, this matter will be settled," Jun Lingxuan said. It was clear that Di Xiaofeng would never agree to this request. Therefore, this conflict could not be resolved. "Jun Lingxuan, I gave you some face, but you really think you're something?" Di Beichen's gaze suddenly froze, and a chilling aura erupted from him. "Do you want me to remove this defensive formation?" As soon as he said that, Jun Lingxuan's expression froze. He had almost forgotten that this trump card was in Di Beichen's hands. With the existence of this card, they simply couldn't do anything to Di Beichen. The expressions of Nangong Yuqing and the others were unsightly. Unfortunately, this trump card was in Beichen's hands. However, if they let this matter go just like that, how would the Nangong family face the world? As he thought of this, Nangong Yuqing couldn't help feeling gloomy. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have allowed Nangong Xiaolong to be so arrogant. Instead, he had stirred up such a mess, leaving no room for negotiation. At this moment, Chen Feng exited his cultivation state and walked over. In my opinion, since this matter has already come to this, we might as well turn this matter into a small one, and a small one into nothing, Chen Feng said slowly. Seeing Chen Feng say such sarcastic words at this time, Nangong Yuqing felt even more annoyed. Why didn't you stand up when they were attacking Xiaolong earlier? You're only speaking up now. I was cultivating earlier, Chen Feng said with a calm expression, as if he was stating an extremely normal fact. However, Nangong Yuqing really wanted to slap this guy. Wasn't this obviously a blatant lie? How could they not hear such a loud commotion? Even an idiot would know that Chen Feng was helping Di Xiaofeng on purpose. However, what was the point of him continuing to compete with Chen Feng? Chu Yingming's brows were tightly knitted together. The reason why he had not stood out earlier was also because he had considered this. Under such circumstances, they would not be able to gain the upper hand against Di Beichen and the others. The reason why he stood up for Nangong Yuqing was not only because of the benefits, but also because he wanted Nangong Yuqing to owe him a favor. After all, he and the Di family were already rivals. Even if there was a little conflict, it wouldn't be a big deal. Since we can't stay here any longer, you should leave this place, Di Beichen said slowly. Hearing this, Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but feel anxious. Why should we? The moment they left this place, with their strength, they wouldn't be able to deal with the terrifying beasts outside. Only death would await them. It's fine if you don't want to leave. We'll leave then. Di Beichen spread his hands with a calm expression. He was about to retract the formation and leave with Di Xiaofeng and the others. Chapter 50-79. When the crowd saw Di Beichen preparing to leave, they couldn't help but feel anxious. As long as the formation existed, they would have a chance to survive. Once Di Beichen and the others left, the Di family, Lin family, Morong family, and the Bailey family would naturally be safe, but they would be finished. Nangong Yuqing, if anyone is to leave, it should be you. That's right, this matter is Nangong Xiaolong's fault. After doing such a thing, he's still so shameless. It's already good enough that we didn't kill him directly. I never thought that the Nangong family would have such a scum, but they're so proud of it. It's simply terrible. Staying here will only dirty our eyes. It's better to leave as soon as possible. For a time, everyone pointed their spears at Nangong Yuqing and the others. In the face of their own interests, they didn't care about anything else. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen and couldn't help but ask, "Are you really going to leave?" "I'm just saying." Di Beichen smiled faintly. "But actually leaving is fine." Hearing Di Beichen's words, everyone immediately understood that this black-bellied guy had already calculated everything. The reason why he said such words was to make Nangong Yuqing and the others angry. Based on the current situation, everyone's spit could drown Nangong Yuqing and the others. There was no need for them to make a move. Brilliant, this move is really brilliant. Di Xiaofeng quietly gave Di Beichen a thumbs up. He knew that leaving wasn't Di Beichen's style. It was to make Nangong Yuqing be despised by everyone. Looking at Nangong Yuqing's increasingly ugly expression, he had to admit that this was really a good move. "Thank you for the compliment." Di Beichen calmly accepted everyone's praise. As for the words black-bellied and fox, he took them all as compliments and accepted them all. Nangong Yuqing stood in place, not knowing what to say in the face of the crowd's clamor. Nangong Yuqing, think about it. Chen Feng glanced at Nangong Yuqing indifferently, before returning to his original spot, and continuing his cultivation. He could no longer be bothered with Nangong Yuqing. In my opinion, it's best to take advantage of this opportunity to drive them away. In any case, these guys have a grudge against us. Why should we protect them? Lin Qianqian's eyes flashed with resentment and coldness. Especially that Jun Lingxuan. No matter what, he's always around. It's so annoying just looking at him. You are right. Let's take this opportunity to drive them out. Lin Yi nodded. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. As long as Nangong Yuqing didn't lower his head, they could use this opportunity to drive these guys away. Chu Yingming immediately sat down after realizing that the situation was unfavorable. His family still had many injured people. Once he left this place, the clan's disciples would definitely lose their lives. He couldn't let such a thing happen. Nangong Yuqing, a wise man, submits to circumstances. Now is not the time to compete, Chu Yingming said in a deep voice. Nangong Yuqing's expression was extremely unsightly. On one side was the pale-faced Nangong Xiaolong. On the other side was the safety of the clan's disciples. He knew very well what choice he should make, but he really couldn't swallow this anger. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Chapter 50-80. Young Master Nangong, don't think too much. Nothing is more important than your life. Xiao Soa couldn't help but speak up. Now that the four families were on the same side, it wouldn't be good for them if something happened to the Nangong family. Nangong Yuqing's eyes lit up when he heard Xiao Soa's words. His expression softened a bit. He didn't expect that Xiao Soa would care about him. What a pleasant surprise. Now that Chu Yingming had taken the lead, Nangong Yuqing no longer hesitated. Xiaolong was indeed in the wrong, but you've already taught him a lesson. Why don't we just let it go? Nangong Yuqing slowly said. Seeing Nangong Yuqing take the initiative to soften his words, everyone's expression became very interesting. I didn't expect Nangong Yuqing to take the initiative to admit his mistake. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. What else can we do? Nangong Yuqing has no way out. Once he leaves, he'll die. Lin Taxing frowned. This guy is really shameless. I wanted to use this opportunity to drive him out, but now he's taking the initiative to soften his words. That won't do. Just drive him out. Lin Qianqian was very persistent. Whenever she thought of this hateful guy, she hoped the heavens would take him away. Nangong Yuqing, we hate each other. You should just leave, Di Xiaofeng coldly said. Nangong Yuqing didn't expect Di Xiaofeng to be so excessive after he softened his words. He wanted to argue, but he also understood that this was what Di Xiaofeng wanted. Once the two sides fought, no one would help him. Nangong Yuqing directly closed his eyes and didn't say anything else. Anyway, he had already made up his mind. As long as he pretended to be dead, Di Beichen wouldn't be able to do anything to him in front of so many people. Noticing Nangong Yuqing's reaction, Di Xiaofeng was stunned for a moment before disbelief appeared on his face. Is this guy acting shamelessly? It seems so. Fuck. Young master, is Xiaolong's penis going to be destroyed? A cultivator from the Nangong family couldn't help but ask in a low voice. What else can we do? Nangong Yuqing snappily said. If we continue to fight, all of us will die. Nangong Xiaolong fainted when he saw that his elder brother had given up on him. He simply could not believe this fact. From today onwards, he, Nangong Xiaolong, was no longer a man. When Bailey Hongzhuang was about to discuss with Di Beichen, she found that Di Beichen had already sat down on the ground and started cultivating. However, after feeling the fluctuation of the latter's aura, she immediately understood that Beichen was about to break through. Di Xiaofeng and the others naturally felt it immediately. Their eyes lit up and smiles appeared on their faces. Beichen is about to break through again. Emperor Xiaofeng couldn't help but sigh. The heavenly mandate body is truly extraordinary. I've been watching you guys break through these days. Previously, when Beichen had just returned to the family, his cultivation base had only been at the Starlight Realm. In such a short period of time, he had already broken through to the Nebula Realm. Chapter 50-81. In the past, I only heard that the cursed body was a unique constitution of your family. Once it is transformed, it will become extremely powerful. At that time, I didn't pay much attention to it, but now it seems that this constitution is really extraordinarily powerful. Morong Jing's eyes were filled with emotion. Suddenly, she understood why Di Beichen had been wandering outside for so many years. After he came back, The D family did not have the slightest dispute about the position of young lord. It was because the difference between the upper and lower realms was not reflected in D Beichen's body. It was not only in D Beichen, but also in Bailey Hongzhuang. Even their teammates were abnormal existences. Di Xiaofeng smiled brightly. Of course, the unique constitution of our family is not simple. For hundreds of years, there has not been a cultivator of the cursed body in our family, but Beichen obtained this inheritance. Naturally, he is the undisputed young master of our family. Back then, when Beichen was just born, the old man had already made the decision to make him the next young master. Fortunately, although Beichen has not been in the family these years, he is also a dragon among men. Sometimes I feel that perhaps this is God's experience for him. You see, didn't you find a wife who is a match made in heaven? Morongjing, Lin Taxing, and the others could not help chuckling as Di Xiaofeng's voice fell. What you said really makes sense. Morongjing nodded in agreement. I think I should also go out to gain experience. Maybe I can find a good wife. Yes, Di Xiaofeng agreed. Why don't you go with Taxing? You both need it anyway. Lin Taxing rolled his eyes. I didn't say anything. Why are you involving me again? Aren't I just concerned about your life? Di Xiaofeng blinked and teased. Come on, I'm so young. I'm not in a hurry. However, after Lin Taxing said this, he met Morongjing's bitter eyes in the blink of an eye. Taxing, do you mean to say that I'm old? Lin Taxing was slightly taken aback, then quickly waved his hand. I didn't mean that. Then what do you mean? Di Xiaofeng asked as if he wanted to see the world in chaos. I meant for you to shut up. Lin Qianqian could not help but ask. What should we do now? I didn't know Nangong Yuqing was so thick-skinned. In the face of life and death, how could he still care about face? Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with mockery. That's all we can do for now. Beichen is breaking through. If we disturb Beichen during this process, it would be bad. This fellow is really something. If he knew that he wasn't a match for us, why did he have to humiliate himself? You want to seek justice for Nangong Xiaolong? What a joke. Although Nangong Yuqing pretended to be cultivating on the surface, he couldn't cultivate in peace under such circumstances. He did not expect to hear Lin Qianqian's ridicule. He almost vomited blood. You were the ones who attacked first, and now you're blaming me. If it weren't for this defensive formation, would I be so sullen? However, no matter how dissatisfied he was at the moment, he could only swallow his anger. He was sure that if he dared to show a trace of dissatisfaction, he would immediately be driven out. As Di Beichen began to concentrate on breaking through, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stayed by his side. The other cultivators of the Di family and the Lin family continued to go out to hunt demon beasts. Chapter 5082. Master, we had such a great opportunity just now. Why didn't we use it to drive the Nangong family out? Xiao He sat on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and couldn't help but ask the question that had been bothering her. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and poked Xiao He's chubby cheeks. Beichen only said that to infuriate everyone's dissatisfaction with Nangong Yuqing. Now that we have both internal and external troubles, if we insist on driving the Nangong family out, he will definitely join forces with the other families. When that time comes, the situation will only become more chaotic. But with so many people attacking together, they won't be able to stop us, right? Xiao He's eyes were filled with doubt. On the surface, it seems so. However, when it comes to the real fight, these factions are all very selfish. How many of them are actually doing their best? Moreover, the amount of yuan qi needed to maintain this defensive array every day is astonishing. You don't have to worry. Once we leave this place, we will have plenty of opportunities to deal with them. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Ever since she had fought with them, she had sensed that their strength was not inferior to the other parties. Thus, the worry in her heart had lessened by a lot. Xiao He nodded slightly. That's true. Let's take advantage of this time to increase our cultivation. When the time comes, it will be easier to deal with them. As the group of disciples hunted the demonic beasts, the yuan qi accumulated in their bodies increased. Gradually, one by one, the cultivators were on the verge of breaking through. When the crowd saw the cultivators from the D family, Lin family, and Morong family break through, their eyes were filled with envy. With this defensive array, killing demonic beasts is a great opportunity to increase our cultivation. That's right. Normally, the yuan qi we absorb during cultivation is not as pure as this. Our cultivation speed is also incomparable to now. It's a pity that our injuries have not yet healed, so killing demonic beasts is difficult. We can only watch helplessly. Everyone sighed. This feeling of only being able to watch and not eat was really depressing. When the leaders of the various factions saw this scene, their hearts grew even more anxious. Originally, their strength was on par with each other. However, if Bewitching took advantage of this opportunity to quickly increase his cultivation, they would be left in the dust. Thinking of this, they began to cultivate with all their might, hoping that their bodies would recover quickly. Yunyan, rest here. When you want to come out and train, come find me, Di Xiaofeng reminded them. Hearing this, Yunyan nodded with a smile on her face. Just now, Di Xiaofeng had already settled them down. She Yunyan's her heart filled her with joy. Once she returned, she would definitely tell Shi this news. This damned Nangong Xiaolong actually let Shi down. But now that he had such an ending, it was quite satisfying. She only hoped that Shi would be able to let go of this matter and walk out of it. A's. Thank you. TSST. If you hadn't given us the spots, we wouldn't have been able to enter. Bailey Yunyan's eyes were filled with sincerity. Ever since she met Bailey Hongzhuang, she had helped her a lot. Chapter 5083. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bailey Yunyan was slightly taken aback. Her cheeks instantly flushed red. Hongzhuang, we haven't even taken any shape yet. Haven't taken any shape yet? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Xiaofeng doesn't look like it. Upon seeing Bailey Yunyan's bashful look, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped teasing her and immediately changed the topic. Yunyan, what kind of inheritance did you encounter previously? Is it a coincidence that everyone in your family is together? She had always felt that this was very strange. Just like when she had first entered the Divine Cloud secret realm, it was extremely difficult for her to find anyone she knew. Naturally, it was even more difficult for Bailey Yunyan to find her family members. After all, there were only a small number of them. However, based on what she had seen, almost all the cultivators from the Bailey family were here. This was very interesting. Hongzhuang, this is really amazing. The inheritance that I've received this time is actually the inheritance from our Bailey family's old ancestor. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with astonishment. Perhaps the old ancestor wanted to protect us. That's why we've gathered together. Otherwise, there are so many powerful cultivators here. It wouldn't have been easy for us to make it here alive. Bailey Yunyan's fair little face was filled with joy. She was also silently grateful. If it had not been for the old ancestors' protection, they would have lost their lives in the various dangers that everyone had mentioned. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I see. Although I've received the inheritance, I haven't fully mastered it. I'm afraid that I'll need some time to fully master it. Otherwise, I would have been able to teach Nangong Xiaolong a lesson myself. As she spoke, Bailey Yunyan could not help but look at Nangong Xiaolong on the other side. The hatred in her eyes was still very strong. Nangong Xiaolong could not help but shiver when he sensed her cold glare. However, he did not dare to retort. Now that even his big brother could not protect him, if he were to cause any more trouble, he would not even be able to keep his life. At this moment, even though he was already poisoned, he did not feel too much despair. This was because he was very clear about Bailey Shi's feelings for him. As long as he told Bailey Shi would definitely find a way to help him find the antidote. Then everything would be solved. When Bewitching successfully broke through to Second Order Nebula, Bailey Hongzhuang also welcomed the opportunity to break through. Not only that, Xiao He and Xiao Bai, but they also had their strengths. Time gradually passed. As the injuries of the cultivators within the defensive Dharma array gradually healed, they were filled with fighting spirit and wanted to join the battle. Over the past few days, they had only been watching others improve, and they had long been impatient. Nai Hongzhuang. Com by yin yin Hongzhuang. Is. A look. Is by a look. S's. S. S's. S-A. S-Spies. S-A. 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 Was it like the world's brightest power? It instantly attracted everyone's attention. A faint and pleasant chanting sound came from the white light. It refreshed the heart and purified the soul. What a rich light energy! Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but exclaim. This power was extremely pure. It was no different from the light energy she displayed. Chapter 5084. This is the first time I've seen such dense and powerful light energy. Xiao So stared ahead in a daze, her face revealing shock and yearning, and even a bit of infatuation. What is this place in front of us? Why is there such a dense amount of light energy? Chu Yingming couldn't help but be shocked. This energy was even more shocking than the assembly's once-in-a-decade chant. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he would find it hard to believe that there was such a place in the Divine Cloud secret territory. If the cultivators of the assembly saw this, they would be even more excited. As long as we pass through this group of beasts, we will be able to find out. Di Xiaofeng slowly said. Compared to the demonic beasts in front of him, the place that was emitting the power of light was simply a heavenly existence. As Di Xiaofeng's voice trailed off, everyone's gaze towards the beasts became even more heated. They only hoped that they could kill these beasts as soon as possible. Then they would be able to take a look. It's a pity that the number of beasts is so shocking. If we want to kill all of them, we will have to stay here for a long time. Qiu Baixin sighed. Over the past few days, they have killed a lot of beasts. However, the difference in numbers was still too big. All the beasts in the Divine Cloud secret territory were gathered here. The number of beasts was imaginable. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen exchanged glances. Their gazes were full of anticipation and understanding. It seemed that the inheritance was right in front of them. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's previous mistress was the saint. I think only the saint has this kind of power. Her ink-black eyes were full of shock and admiration. Only when she saw it with her own eyes did she understand how powerful the saint was. Before this, she only had a vague guess. But after experiencing it for herself, the shock she felt affected her heart. Even though there was a huge gap between her capabilities and the saint's, as long as she worked hard, the gap would shrink. This feeling was like seeing an infinite amount of hope. Her heart was full of anticipation. However, just as everyone was thinking about how to kill these demonic beasts as soon as possible and head to the place where the light energy was emitted, they suddenly realized that the ruthless aura in the demonic beast's eyes began to dissipate. The demonic beast's gazes gradually calmed down. Listening to the melodious chant, their attacks also stopped, and they began to retreat. Seeing this scene, everyone present couldn't help but be surprised. The power of light is too strong. Even the demonic beasts were purified by it. That's right. The attacks of those demonic beasts just now were so fierce. Just a simple chant was enough to make them let go of the hostility in their hearts. This kind of ability is simply shocking. We're both chanting, but the gap between us is just too big. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. Previously, when she was chanting, she felt that the buff effect on the team was not bad. Now, it seemed that they were not on the same level at all. The chanting in front of her was able to make all the demonic beasts give up on attacking in a short period of time. This kind of influence was beyond her imagination. She finally understood why the power of light was so revered. If she could reach the level of the Saint of Light, how terrifying would her power be? Chapter 5085. After the beasts were reformed, they retreated one after another. Only then did everyone walk out of the defensive array, bathed in the sun again and feeling the warm aura. A relaxed smile appeared on everyone's face. I thought I would definitely lose my life here this time. I didn't expect the tables to turn. Not only did I survive, but I also saw such a magnificent scene. In the next moment, everyone no longer hesitated and quickly walked toward the place where the light power was blooming. They also wanted to know what was blooming with such intense light. According to their judgment, The inheritance was probably in front of them. Master, let's go and have a look. Xiao He rubbed her hands, her face full of expectation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, and also walked forward at the same time. Before she arrived, she heard a burst of exclamations. Oh my God, there is such a beautiful place. Is this a divine tree? It's so dreamy. This tree knows how to chant. Is it the light divine tree? Bailey Hongzhuang's people quickened their pace, and soon saw the scene in front. However, as they saw it clearly, a strong shock emerged in their hearts. In their sight, a towering tree stood. This tree seemed to be able to penetrate the world. Everyone stood in front of it, looking extremely small. Even hundreds of people couldn't surround the thick trunk. The amazing green with starry light made it look like a divine tree. Just looking at it made people admire it, and not dare to blaspheme it. The dense power of light was being emitted from the divine tree. As everyone got closer, the power of light became more and more intense. Standing under the tree, one only felt that the whole person was bathed in the light power. All the fatigue in the body began to disappear, and some hidden diseases were also cured. The hardships of the past few days seemed to have dissipated into nothingness. Everyone's faces were full of smiles. They only felt that their bodies were as light as a swallow, having an unprecedented ease. This is the powerful power of the light power. Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh. Why does this scene in front of me make me feel like I'm dreaming? Not to mention you, I also have this feeling. Lin Taxing laughed. This tree is so thick. I'm afraid it has lived here for many years. Di Beichen sized up the divine tree in front of him. He was also shocked by this scene. This kind of feeling seemed to have already surpassed the scope of what humans could achieve, and the shock it brought was not something that could be compared to the past. Xiao Soa leaned against the tree trunk in surprise, her eyes filled with ecstasy and obsession. That's right, this is the origin of the power of light. The Saint of Light had disappeared for many years. It was because of the appearance of the Saint of Light that they found out that they could cultivate elemental powers. However, the Holy Maiden of Light had disappeared not long after she appeared. Naturally, this inheritance did not have much of a foundation. Many of the current cultivation methods were discovered by the powerhouses of the Holy Light Society. All along, the Holy Light Assembly had been hoping to find the inheritance of the Holy Maiden of Light. As long as they could find the Light Sacred Assembly, they would definitely be revitalized, and their influence would be even stronger. However, how difficult was it to find the inheritance? For so many years, no one was able to find it. She had always held the same expectations, but she also understood that the difficulty was too great. Chapter 5086. Standing under the tree of God, Xiao Sou felt that she had countless inspirations. She seemed to have found a way to break through all the obstacles that she had encountered while cultivating the power of light. She was sure that as long as she cultivated by the tree of God for a while, her power of light would definitely increase greatly. Her strength would be far greater than before. She even thought that she had never been able to become the true Holy Maiden of Light. Perhaps she could achieve it through this opportunity. If she could obtain the inheritance of the Holy Maiden of Light, who would have any objections to her succeeding the position of the Holy Maiden of Light? Thinking of this, Xiao Sou could not help but feel happy. However, she subconsciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Out of everyone, only Bailey Hongzhuang could pose a threat to her. Bailey Hongzhuang was also sizing up the tree of God. She realized that after getting close to the tree of God, her thoughts seemed to have become clearer in an instant. Many problems became simpler than usual. Beichen, I think that cultivating under the tree of God for a while will be very beneficial for us. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded slightly. That's right. This is the inheritance of the Holy Maiden of Light. It's indeed a good opportunity. Xiao He and Xiao Bai had already sat down and began to comprehend the power of light. Ever since they had merged into one, they had dual attributes. In fact, they had dual attributes. It was just that they had not found a way to awaken them previously, because of the loss of their memories. Although they had almost lost their lives when Xiao He self-destructed the last time, it was a blessing in disguise. They had actually found the altar of God and recovered their memories. Now they were much stronger than before. This is really a good place to comprehend and cultivate. Di Xiaofeng smiled. I feel like I'm about to break through. That's right. I've been stuck at this bottleneck for a long time. I didn't expect to touch the barrier of a breakthrough after just standing here for a while. Morong Jing could not hide the joy on his face. He did not say anything else, and immediately sat down to meditate and try to break through. This kind of opportunity did not come by at all times. It was not easy for him to feel it, so he had to seize the opportunity. Otherwise, he didn't know when he would be able to break through again. Morong Jing was not the only one. Many cultivators had only stood under the divine tree for a moment before they felt the opportunity to break through. In an instant, more than half of the cultivators began to attempt to break through. Such a grand occasion was obviously impossible to happen on a normal day, but it did happen at this moment. Everyone was immersed in joy, and they realized that the demonic beasts that had retreated had also returned. However, before they could even put up their guard, these demonic beasts had already submitted to the divine tree, their eyes shining with reverence. I suddenly understand why these demonic beasts are so strong. The place where this divine tree is located is completely a place where spiritual qi gathers. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes were filled with joy. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. In her line of sight, the dense elemental energy seemed to have condensed into a solid substance and drifted around the tree of God, causing the scene in front of her to look like a fairyland. That's right. I didn't think that there would be such a scene at the back. It's like the world of immortals. Chapter 5087. Among all the cultivators present, besides the light attribute cultivators, the wood attribute cultivators were the happiest. This was because the tree of God exuded a strong life force, which was extremely helpful to the wood attribute cultivators. Cultivating here would result in twice the results with half the effort. Very quickly, all the cultivators surrounded the tree of God and began to meditate and cultivate. This was probably their biggest gain after entering the immortal cloud mystery realm. Not only humans but even the beasts were cultivating. During this process, some people were even surprised to find that the beasts were not hostile towards them at all. On the contrary, they began to get along with each other. Peace, tranquility, ease. Such a place was truly like a paradise on earth. There was no fighting at all. Everyone had an unprecedented peace in their hearts. At the same time, they also had a deeper understanding of the power of light. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Di Beichen looked at the excited crowd around him. His handsome brows furrowed slightly. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Wife, I don't know why, but I keep feeling that something is not right here." The warm and pleasant voice was filled with suspicion. Di Beichen looked around suspiciously. Everything looked normal, but he had a strange feeling in his heart. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "I have the same feeling too." "You too?" Di Beichen raised his brows. His gaze instantly became serious. If he was the only one who had this feeling, perhaps it was just an illusion. However, since Bailey Hongzhuang also had this feeling, it proved that this strange feeling was real. "That's right." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was filled with certainty. Then she furrowed her brows again. "However, I also don't understand what's wrong. Everything looks normal here." In the next moment, Di Beichen called out to Di Xiaofeng, who was cultivating beside him. "Beichen, what's the matter? Brother, do you feel that something is wrong here?" Emperor Xiaofeng looked around and shook his head blankly. "No, what's wrong?" Noticing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were serious and didn't seem to be joking, Di Xiaofeng became more serious and patted Lin Taxing beside him. "Star Stomper, do you feel that something is wrong?" "Wrong." Lin Taxing shook his head. "I think everything here is great. I've never felt so good before. My cultivation speed has improved by leaps and bounds." Seeing this, Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen. "What's the problem?" "It's nothing. I just vaguely feel that something is wrong." Di Beichen's deep and charming eyes rippled with a complicated and cautious luster. He began to look around seriously. He didn't believe that it was an illusion. There must be something that they missed. Jun Lingxuan was sitting not far from Di Beichen. After hearing the conversation between Di Beichen and others, he couldn't help but sneer. I'm afraid that Di Beichen is used to being in the limelight. How dare he say that something is wrong under the sacred tree? What a joke! Xiao Suo couldn't help but open her eyes after hearing Jun Lingxuan's words. Looking at Di Beichen, who was frowning, she thought for a moment and understood the key to the problem. Chapter 5088. Following Xiao Suo's words, Jun Lingxuan was stunned for a moment, then his eyes shone with astonishment. What did you say? Di Beichen has the darkness attribute? That's right. Xiao Suo nodded. He does have the darkness attribute. How did you know? Our family has a very good relationship with the imperial capital. My father told me, so it should be true. When Jun Lingxuan heard this, his voice was very loud. In this quiet environment, it was very abrupt. After hearing Xiao Suo's confirmation, many cultivators opened their eyes, their hearts filled with astonishment. Di Beichen has the darkness attribute? It can't be. As a darkness attribute cultivator, he can actually become the young master. This Di family is really different. I suddenly understand why Di Beichen didn't use his elemental power during the fight. It turns out that he has the darkness attribute. That's why he didn't use it. Everyone discussed spiritedly, their faces filled with realization. This was something that everyone had been wondering about. When they fought with Chu Yingming, everyone believed that as long as Di Beichen used his elemental power, Chu Yingming might not be his opponent. However, Di Beichen didn't show any signs of using his elemental power from beginning to end. It wasn't until now that they connected all the dots that everyone completely understood. Chu Yingming looked at Di Beichen not far away. His malicious eyes lit up, and a trace of relaxation appeared between his brows. Young master, you don't need to worry now. The Chu family disciple smiled. The darkness inheritance has disappeared long ago. Darkness attribute cultivators have no future. Even if he isn't weak now, as long as he can't find a way to cultivate the darkness attribute, his future achievements won't be high. Chu Yingming smiled faintly and nodded. I didn't expect him to have such a fatal flaw. No wonder he didn't want to show it. I was wondering how powerful Di Beichen was. So it turns out that he has the darkness attribute. TSK, what a waste of talent. Nangong Yuqing chuckled. All the unfairness from before seemed to be balanced in an instant. Because Di Beichen's future couldn't compare to theirs. So what if he has the darkness attribute? Is there a need to make such a fuss? Di Zhuai's heard everyone's ridicule, and a trace of anger appeared between his brows. There's no future for darkness attribute cultivators. This is an attribute that everyone despises. What can you do? Xiao Sudong ridiculed. Even if our young master has the darkness attribute, isn't he beating you? You. Xiao Sudong's speechless. What about me? Am I not speaking the truth? I don't bother. Xiao Xiaojiu hear Di Beichen say, at this moment he's. Di Xiaofeng and the others looked at Di Beichen with worry. Beichen, are you alright? The darkness attribute has always been despised by others. It's the most disliked attribute. It was precisely because of this that cultivators of the dark attribute often received strange looks from others. Suddenly being treated like this by so many people, one can imagine his mood. Seeing everyone's worry, Di Beichen chuckled. Do I look like someone with a weak heart? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. For a moment, they didn't know how to answer. But this. Chapter 5089. Di Xiaofeng and the others looked at Di Beichen worriedly. Even if he looked indifferent on the surface, he must be feeling a little uncomfortable inside. After all, being looked at strangely by so many people, no one would feel good. Only Bailey Hongzhuang was very calm. She had been with Di Beichen for so long, so she naturally knew how much Di Beichen could bear. Along the way, this kind of thing had already happened countless times. From the moment Di Beichen knew that he had the dark attribute, he was already mentally prepared. Moreover, Di Beichen didn't only have the dark attribute, he also had the light attribute. So Di Beichen has the dark attribute. In that case, he's not suitable for you. Jun Lingxuan looked at Xiao Suo. You're the holy maiden of light. How can you be with someone with the dark attribute? Xiao Soa nodded slightly. Before she could speak, Xiao Sudong had already spoken first. Of course. How can a cultivator with his attribute be worthy of my big sister? The faces of the cultivators of the Xiao family were filled with pride. Previously, because Di Beichun had refused the marriage contract with Xiao Seiwu, they felt a burst of shame. They didn't expect that there would be such a thing, and their mentality suddenly changed. It wasn't that Di Beichun rejected Xiao Sou, but that he wasn't worthy of Xiao Sou at all. All the cultivators changed their minds almost instantly. Cultivators with the dark attribute were destined to have no future. If it was said that because of Di Beichun's performance before, everyone had a higher opinion of him, but now his status had dropped a lot. No matter how outstanding his performance was now, it was meaningless if he had no future. When Lin Qianqian saw that the people of the Xiao family were mercilessly belittling Di Beichun, a strong anger appeared in her eyes. She immediately took a step forward and said angrily, "So what if he has the dark attribute? Did he kill your father, your mother, or your entire family? Is there a need to do this?" Xiao Soa's expression turned ugly when she heard Ling Qianqian's scolding. However, she did not sit back and wait for her death. Everyone knows about the darkness of the power of darkness. Do you need me to remind you? Back then, dark attribute cultivators caused great chaos in the upper realm. If it weren't for the Holy Light Assembly, who knows what kind of situation everyone would be in now? Oh, according to what you're saying, dark attribute cultivators only know how to do bad things. Why do I seem to remember that the only reason you were able to keep your life was because of Beichun? I say, why do you have no conscience at all? You were so obedient when you were begging Beichun for protection. Now you're jumping around. Don't you find it embarrassing? Lin Qianqian looked at Xiao Soa with a burning gaze that seemed to be able to see through her soul. Xiao Soa was stunned. Faced with Lin Qianqian's questions, she was speechless. Yes, look at her self-righteous look. She speaks as if people with the light attribute never do bad things. Lin Yi also sneered. You know what kind of person you are. Don't think that you are so great just because you are lucky to awaken the light attribute. If you want to look down on others, wait until you really become the Holy Light Saint. Chapter 50-90. Xiao Soa's face darkened when she heard Lin Qianqian's words. Lin Qianqian's words had hit her where it hurt. She didn't care about anything else. The title of the Saintess of the Light had always belonged to her. Even though she knew that she could not become the real Saintess of the Light, she had never thought that the position of the Saintess of the Light would fall into someone else's hands. However, she only realized the danger when Bailey Hongzhuang appeared. Bailey Hongzhuang's various abilities and talents in the light attribute were not weaker than hers. In fact, she was even stronger than her. If the title of the Saintess of the Light were to fall into Bailey Hongzhuang's hands one day, it would be something that she would not be able to accept. He is of the dark attribute, and is destined not to be accepted by others. Xiao Soa's gaze was cold as she turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. You will only affect your future by being with him. The Light Sacred Assembly will not accept you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. So what? I don't care at all. Do you know that if the Light Sacred Assembly does not accept you, it will be very difficult for you to obtain a high-level light attribute cultivation method in the future? Xiao Soa raised her voice as she stared sharply at Bailey Hongzhuang. She did not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could truly be unconcerned under such circumstances. However, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. Her delicate and peerless face was filled with a confident brilliance. So what if it's difficult? So what if I don't cultivate the Light Sacred Assembly's cultivation method? Xiao Soa was stunned when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's nonchalant look. She could tell that Bailey Hongzhuang was speaking from the bottom of her heart. That was the disdain that came from the bottom of her heart. It was as if she did not care about the Light Sacred Assembly at all. This was inconceivable to Lin Qianqian. If a cultivator wanted to cultivate attribute energy, they would have to obtain the cultivation method from the various large guilds. If they could not obtain the cultivation method, it would mean that they had no future. Lin Qianqian could not understand why Bailey Hongzhuang did not care. Compared to Xiao Soa's shock, Bailey Hongzhuang was very calm. Not to mention that the Light Sacred Assembly's cultivation method was not as accurate as hers. Even if the cultivation method was in the hands of the Light Sacred Assembly, she would choose Bewitching without hesitation. To her, there was no need to choose. Facing such a Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone couldn't help but look at Bewitching, and their hearts suddenly understood. As husband and wife were of one heart, they were of the same heart. Previously, when Bewitching protected Bailey Hongzhuang so much, they were very envious of Bailey Hongzhuang for being able to receive such love. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance made them understand that her feelings for Bewitching were the same. For Bewitching, she had also sacrificed a lot. For a moment, many men looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with sighs. This kind of relationship was also what every man yearned for. If he was of the darkness attribute, how many women by his side would be as loyal to him as Bailey Hongzhuang? When Morongjing heard this news, he could not help but be astonished. He really did not expect Bewitching to be of the darkness attribute. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude also shocked him. Chapter 5091. Bailey Hongzhuang is too domineering. For Bewitching, she doesn't even care about her own future. Her singing is even better than Xiaosuo's. I think she has a high chance of winning the competition for the position of the Saint of Light. That's right. Didn't you notice how much Xiaosuo cares about Bailey Hongzhuang? Isn't it because she feels threatened? I think Bewitching is lucky to have found a woman like Bailey Hongzhuang. No wonder he dotes on her so much. If it were me, I would definitely do the same. When Morongjing thought of this, the other cultivators naturally didn't overlook it. Bailey Hongzhuang's previous performance had already made everyone understand that she was more outstanding than Xiaosuo. Therefore, everyone guessed that Bailey Hongzhuang would be Xiaosuo's biggest enemy in becoming the Saint of Light. However, no one thought that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't care about the position of the Saint of Light so much. Once the Saint of Light had this identity, her influence would be different from the past. Her cultivation resources would also be greatly increased. Logically speaking, no one could ignore such benefits. If it was an ordinary woman, even if the other party was someone she deeply loved, she would probably hesitate. At this moment, the difference between Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiaosuo was immediately obvious. Lin Qianqian and the others were also touched after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Bewitching turned his gaze and smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. Deep in his eyes, there was a touch of emotion. He knew that to Bailey Hongzhuang, the identity of the Saint of Light wasn't important. However, he also understood that it was because of him. Di Xiaofeng patted Bewitching's shoulder. Beichen, you really found a good wife. You have to treat Hongzhuang well in the future. If you bully her, even I won't agree. Xiaofeng, don't worry. Think about how Beichen treats Hongzhuang. How could he treat Hongzhuang badly? Lin Qianqian smiled. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. That's true. Xu Yingming and Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but look deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang, but they didn't say anything. It had to be said that Bailey Hongzhuang's choice made them feel relieved. This was because once Bailey Hongzhuang became the Saintess of the Light, they would be in even more trouble. This problem did not exist now, but they also admired the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching. Just as everyone was discussing animatedly, the illumination divine trees chanting suddenly underwent a change. Seeing this, a trace of doubt appeared in everyone's eyes. Why did the chanting of the divine tree change? It doesn't seem as peaceful as before. Lin Taxing frowned. The previous chanting that was as pleasant as the chirping of birds made people feel calm and fascinated, as if everything was so wonderful. However, the chanting now had a trace of noise, which made people feel uneasy. It was a completely different feeling from before. Hearing Lin Taxing's words, everyone felt the same. Although they didn't feel the specific change, the chanting clearly didn't make them feel as comfortable as before. At this moment, another voice sounded. Look, the look in the eyes of those demon beasts has changed. As soon as this was said, everyone immediately turned their heads to look at the demon beasts. They saw that the calm eyes of those demon beasts were gradually dyed with violence. It was as if they had returned to the time when they were treated as food, without the slightest bit of peace and friendliness. Chapter 5092. When Xiron's expression suddenly changed, revealing a pale and solemn expression. Although he still didn't understand why such an unforeseen event had occurred, he knew that it was definitely not a good thing. These devil beasts aren't going to attack us again, right? Di Xiaofeng's expression tightened, his starry eyes filled with nervousness and worry. One ought to know that they were currently in the vicinity of the divine tree, while the devil beasts were surrounding them, completely surrounding them. The moment these devil beasts attacked, they wouldn't even have a place to retreat. More importantly, with the divine tree's continuous chanting, more and more devil beasts were approaching them. However, before they could think about it carefully, the devil beasts had already pounced on them. Roar! The crazy roars were filled with bloodthirst and cruelty. All the devil beasts regarded the humans as their enemies and pounced on them without hesitation. In a split second, miserable shrieks resounded everywhere. Many cultivators couldn't dodge in time and were attacked by the devil beasts, causing them to fall. The cultivators who reacted quickly gathered together to block the attacks of the demonic beasts. However, during the process of fighting, they found that the devil beasts' attacks were much stronger than before. Previously, when they faced these devil beasts, it was already very difficult to resist. Now, with the eruption of the devil beasts' combat power, they were on the verge of collapse. What do we do now? We have no way of leaving this place. Sheng Guaningying's face was filled with anxiety. This sudden change was too unbearable for her to bear. I'm afraid it's the tree's problem. Due to the change in its chanting, the devil beast situation has changed. Di Xiaofeng calmed down immediately. This sudden change was completely due to the divine tree's change. There's nothing we can do. We can't order the tree to change its chanting, Xu Yingming said in a heavy voice with a hint of anger. Damn it, these devil beasts are completely crazy. We can't stop them at all. Nangong Yuqing felt like he was going crazy. No one would be able to withstand such an unforeseen event. He only noticed that in this short period of time, several cultivators from his family had fallen. If this situation wasn't changed quickly, they would all die here. Bewitching, activate the defensive formation quickly. We will hold on for a while, Chen Feng said hurriedly. This was the only thing they could rely on at the moment. Hearing that, Bewitching immediately nodded. Without hesitation, he began to set up the defensive formation. When the other cultivators saw this scene, their eyes lit up with hope. Previously, it was Bewitching's defensive array that kept them alive. If Bewitching could set up another defensive array, they would still have hope. Look, this tree can actually absorb people's blood essence. Lin Yi's voice was trembling and frightened. She widened her eyes and looked at the green divine tree in front of her in disbelief. Just a moment ago, this tree was exuding an incomparably holy aura. But now it was so cruel and bloody. Hearing Lin Yi's words, everyone turned their eyes and saw a horrifying scene. Branches extended from the divine tree and swept up the cultivators' corpses on the ground, absorbing their blood essence and flesh to strengthen itself. Chapter 5093. Seeing this scene, everyone felt a chill in their hearts, and their hands and feet were cold. The divine tree that they admired so much before was actually so evil. How is this a divine tree? I think it's a tree of death. Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but curse. His handsome face was pale, and the horror on his face couldn't be concealed at all. Do you think this tree deliberately used the power of light to attract all of us here, and then let these beasts deal with us? A strange idea suddenly emerged in Chen Feng's mind. When he first thought of this idea, he felt that it was impossible. But now that he thought about it carefully, if all of this was true, then it was really terrifying. As soon as this remark came out, everyone was stunned at first. After thinking of the possibility, they all felt a chill down their spine. It's too scary. How can there be such an evil tree? Lin Yi only felt a chill in her body. She felt numb from the soles of her feet to her spine. The smell of blood spread in the air. In a short time, many cultivators had fallen. The casualty rate was extremely high. While fighting, everyone couldn't help but look at Bewitching. They only hoped that Di Beichen's defensive array could be arranged as soon as possible. Otherwise, they really didn't know how long they could hold on. Fortunately, Di Beichen's speed was also extremely fast. After casting it twice in a row, he had become extremely proficient in casting it again. Everyone only saw a flash of light, and an invisible barrier had surrounded them. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. At least they had a chance to breathe. However, the next scene made everyone's expression change. In their sight, with the fierce attacks of those beasts, the defensive array was constantly fluctuating. It could be broken at any time. The attack power of these beasts is too strong. The defensive array can't resist it, Di Beichen said in a deep voice. Now he also had some understanding of the power of his defensive array. It was extremely difficult to resist those beasts before. Now the combat power of these beasts had increased by more than one level compared to before, so it seemed to be in danger. The chanting of this tree has the effect of increasing combat power, and it will make these beasts enter a violent state. I'm afraid it's not a long-term solution to stay in this defensive array. Xiao Soa's face was pale. As the Saint of Light, she could also determine the effect of this divine tree's chanting. This situation made her feel even more hopeless. With Xiao Soa's words, everyone finally understood. However, this was simply a nightmare. Then what should we do? We will all die here. Qiu Baixing couldn't help but feel anxious. If it was possible, he really wished that he didn't enter the Immortal Cloud secret domain. In the past, even when he was training, he had never been in such danger. Don't be anxious. Everyone think about it carefully. Only by calming down can we find a way to survive. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips parted slightly, her fair and glossy face was calm. She knew that once everyone panicked, they would be finished. Hongzhuang is right. Let's think of a way first. Di Xiaofeng nodded. Who knows when the singing will change again? In my opinion, I'm afraid that's not very likely. This tree probably wants to absorb the essence blood, which is why it attracted all of us here. It's too difficult to leave this place alive. Chapter 5094. If we want to live, there's only one way out. Di Beichen suddenly said. What way out? Cut down this tree. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. They only felt their lips dry up, and it became particularly difficult to speak. Cut down this tree. Everyone couldn't help but ask. Even if this tree had become so terrifying now, its previous holy appearance was still engraved in everyone's hearts. Cutting it down like this was something that no one could imagine. This tree isn't some light sacred tree at all. It's very bloodthirsty. Whether it's us or these monsters, we're all just food to it. If we don't destroy it, under its amplification, the monster's attack power will only become stronger and stronger. There's no possibility of us leaving here alive. So we have to cut it down. Di Beichen's voice was resolute and decisive, leaving no room for doubt. Everyone looked at each other. Although they knew that Di Beichen's words were very reasonable, this decision was still somewhat difficult to accept. That's right, we have to cut down this tree. Bailey Hongzhuang was the first to agree. If we don't destroy this tree, even if we die here today, more cultivators will fall in its hands in the future. This tree is simply an evil thing. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. In her eyes, nothing was impossible. Just like how she could transmigrate, it had already proved that many things in this world that didn't exist were actually real. Even if everyone believed that this tree was a sacred tree, she believed that all of this was just a disguise. Bloodthirsty and cruel, that was its nature. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were so sure, Di Xiaofeng and the others naturally didn't doubt it, and nodded one after another. Since that's the case, then let's cut down this tree. No, Xiao Soa frowned. But the light energy that this tree has is also real. It can bring endless inspiration to people. What time is it that you're still thinking about this? Do you really want to die here? Lin Qianqian's eyes were filled with disgust. It's fine if you want to die, but don't drag others down with you. Xiao Soa's face paled. She couldn't help but look at Jun Lingxuan. With her strength alone, it was obvious that she could not change everyone's decision. However, Jun Lingxuan hesitated for a moment before saying, No matter what, our lives are more important. Don't think too much about it. We have to stop this tree from chanting. Otherwise, the ferocious attacks of these demonic beasts are not something we can withstand. As he spoke, Chen Feng looked at Di Beichen and said, Beichen, you'll be in charge. What should we do next? Seeing how much Chen Feng trusted him, Di Beichen nodded. All right then. We are already at the edge of the divine tree. Everyone is divided into two groups. One group will stay outside to fend off the demonic beasts, while the other group will follow me to chop down the tree. Di Beichen made a prompt decision and quickly made the arrangements. Under such circumstances, Chu Yingming and the others did not have any objections. They only cooperated with Di Beichen's arrangements. Xiao Suo was obviously unwilling to chop down the tree. However, no one was willing to listen to her opinion. Di Beichen even directly let her deal with the demonic beasts to avoid trouble. Chapter 5095. After making a decision, the next moment, Di Beichen led everyone to rush towards the giant tree that was chanting. However, the moment they walked out of the defensive formation, the giant tree's branches swept toward them without hesitation, carrying with them a cold, killing intent. The branches were as flexible as vines and carried a powerful force. The moment they touched the cultivators, they were immediately wrapped around and dragged toward the giant tree. Immediately, cries of alarm and screams rose and fell. One of the cultivators was directly wrapped up by the giant tree, and in the blink of an eye, he was turned into a dried corpse. Seeing this, everyone's heart trembled, and their killing intent intensified. They had to completely destroy such an evil thing. Xiren, save me! Shangguan Yingying's cry of alarm was heard. Everyone found that the vines were pulling Shangguan Yingying's feet, and were pulling her backward. Xiren's eyes immediately turned blood red. He immediately pounced forward, and stabbed the vines with the sharp sword in his hand. The vines were like human hands. Following Xiren's stab, blood started flowing out. Di Beichen and the rest did not hesitate. At the same time, they rushed forward and cut the vines without hesitation. Only when the vines were cut did the vines that were wrapped around Shangguan Yingying's feet loosen. Shangguan Yingying's face was pale. Obviously, she still had some lingering fear. She was so close to becoming a dried corpse. I must cut this tree, Shangguan Yingying roared. The lingering fear in her heart transformed into a thick flame of anger. What rotten tree! It actually wanted her life. She had to take this tree's life. Seeing that Shangguan Yingying was still angry, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest understood that she was fine and were relieved. Chen Feng raised his voice and reminded everyone, this tree's attack power is very strong. We must be careful. Facing this tree, the threat it posed was not any greater than facing those demonic beasts. After everyone realized how powerful this tree was, they had an understanding in their hearts. Their movement techniques were pushed to the limit as they approached the tree at the fastest speed possible. However, as the distance between them got closer and closer, the giant tree's attacks became fiercer and fiercer. If they were not careful, they would be swept away by the vines of the giant tree. Fortunately, everyone worked together. Once they saw a cultivator being attacked, they would rush to the rescue as quickly as possible. Even so, many cultivators still lost their lives instantly. This can't go on. It's too difficult to get close to the divine tree. Di Xiaofeng's face was ashen. They had already tried their best to get closer, but these vines were too annoying. Since we can't get close, let's cut off all these vines. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with determination and ruthlessness. That was the only way they could successfully get close. As soon as he said that, a trace of hesitation flashed in everyone's eyes. However, they quickly became determined. Since there was no other way, this was the only way. Who cares? Since I'm going to die regardless of whether I fight or not, I might as well fight with my life on the line. Who knows, I might even have a chance of survival. Lin Taxing's voice was resolute. He was ready to die at worst. However, even if he was going to die, he would drag this tree down with him. After hearing this, the eyes of those who were still hesitating flashed with a strong fighting spirit. Chapter 5096. In the face of death, everyone's fighting spirit was ignited. They were all well-known figures among cultivators. If the other party wanted to take their lives, it would not be an easy task. Immediately, everyone started to move. Bailey Hongzhuang held the silk cutter in her hand. Facing the sweeping vines, her body turned into a flash of lightning as the sharp blade in her hand pierced out mercilessly. Ding ding ding. The sound of metal resounded. Everyone was trying to cut the vines. The huge tree seemed to have sensed everyone's thoughts. Immediately, even more vines appeared, intending to strangle everyone. Countless vines were like the hands of a devil, covering the sky and covering the earth as they swept over. Everyone could only focus on blocking. If they were careless, their bodies would be bound by the vines, and they would lose their ability to fight. As everyone stopped trying to get close to the tree, they shifted their focus to the vines. Soon a lot of vines were cut off by everyone. The huge tree's chanting became more and more berserk. That sound caused everyone's ears to hurt. The devil beasts seemed to have entered a berserk state, as their attacks became extremely terrifying. Come back quickly. We can't hold on here anymore. Chu Yingming shouted with a pale face. As all the devil beasts entered a berserk state, cracks started to appear on the defensive formation. It was obvious that it would break soon. Once the defensive formation disappeared, he had no doubt that they would become food for these devil beasts at the fastest speed possible. Hearing the sounds of collapse from behind, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression tightened. They can't hold on anymore. We have to go back and help. Bewitching turned around. Indeed, the devil beasts' attacks were densely packed. Their eyes were bloodshot, obviously not in a normal state. Let's go back first. We'll come back later. Chen Feng's eyes were filled with unwillingness. However, he still helplessly made the decision. Now he was very sure that the problem was with this huge tree. As long as they could cut down this tree, at least the devil beast's attacks would not be so strong. Unfortunately, it was extremely difficult to cut down this huge tree in a short period of time. Currently, they were truly troubled by both internal and external troubles. They could not split themselves up. On one side was a giant tree that could not be taken down for a long time, and on the other side was a teammate who could collapse at any time. Everyone quickly made a decision and quickly returned to the team. However, they also understood that as long as they could temporarily block these demonic beasts, they had to come and cut down this tree. Otherwise, the rest would be endless trouble. After Bewitching returned to the team, he immediately reinforced the defensive array. These demonic beasts are completely crazy. There's no way to stop them. Chu Yingming's complexion was extremely ugly. This situation made him feel that he was very close to death. We have to think of a way. Even if there's a defensive formation, it won't be long before it's completely destroyed under the attacks of these demon beasts. Nangong Yuqing said with an anxious expression, his voice unconsciously becoming sharp. But other than resisting, what else can we do? Di Xiaofeng frowned. Everyone, if you have any trump cards, don't hide them. Hurry up and use them. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. At this juncture of life and death, who would still be in the mood to hide their trump cards? However, the problem was that there was nothing they could do. Even if they had the strongest moves, facing these endless waves of demonic beasts, how much of an effect could they have? The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly took out several porcelain bottles. Chapter 5097. These are all poisonous powders. Bailey Hongzhuang's calm eyes were cold and serious. There was no trace of panic on her face. It would be difficult for her poison to poison people. After all, everyone was very cautious. Before they even got close, it was very likely that they would be discovered. However, when dealing with these demonic beasts, there was no need to worry about this. After all, the intelligence of these demonic beasts could not be compared to that of humans. Can this poison kill these demonic beasts? Everyone's eyes lit up. If this poison had such an effect, then everyone could breathe a sigh of relief. However, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. These demonic beasts are very strong. It won't be easy to poison them to death. Hearing this, everyone's eyes dimmed. If it couldn't kill the demonic beasts, then what was the point of using this poison powder? Although this poison powder can't kill the demonic beasts, it has a certain paralyzing effect. It can slow down the demonic beast's attack speed. It should be able to improve our situation. After hearing this, the gloomy crowd had a trace of hope. No matter what, as long as it could weaken the demonic beast's attack power, it was a good thing for them. Hong Zhuang, quickly try it. Shangguan Yingying hurriedly said. Others might not know, but she had some understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang's poison techniques. Since she said so, then it proved that the effect was not weak. It would definitely be alleviated. Bailey Hongzhuang did not hesitate. The first thing she did was to scatter the poison powder. As long as it could give everyone a chance to breathe, it was excellent. Xiao Soa looked at Bailey Hongzhuang using the poison powder, and did not have any expectations in her heart. At their level of strength, unless they had extraordinary poison techniques, it would be very difficult to achieve any effect. After the poison powder was used, everyone was looking forward to the effect. However, the demonic beast's attack power did not decrease at all, as if nothing had happened. Bailey Hongzhuang, your poison powder has no effect at all. Jun Lingxuan could not help but say, with a hint of annoyance and dissatisfaction. What are you mumbling about? If you have the ability, then find a way. Shangguan Yingying immediately retorted, her eyes filled with anger. I'm too lazy to talk to you. Just when everyone was sure that the poison powder didn't have any effect, they realized that the attack power of the demonic beasts had indeed weakened a lot. It works. This poison powder is really effective. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. They keenly discovered that the demonic beast's eyes had become numb, and its limbs had also become stiff. Seeing this, everyone no longer hesitated, and immediately unleashed their strongest battle strength. With such an opportunity, if he didn't kill the demonic beast as soon as possible, when would he get another chance? The sound of the fluctuation of yuan power continued to reverberate. The earth-shattering sound resounded, enveloping the entire area, as if it was the end of the world. The corpses of the demonic beasts began to pile up with the defensive array as the center. The number was astonishing. However, compared to the endless demonic beasts behind them, this kind of progress did not make them feel any joy. Although the speed at which we kill the demonic beasts is fast, the speed at which our essence energy is consumed is also very fast. If this continues, we will only be exhausted to death in the end. Chen Feng had a complicated expression on his face. The situation before him was akin to an unsolvable puzzle. He simply couldn't find a way out. Chapter 5098. Hearing Bewitching's words, Chen Feng nodded his head slightly. This was indeed the only method they could think of. However, with the current situation, they were unable to do anything else. The next second, he turned his head and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey, how much poison powder do you have on you? Can you still allow everyone to hold on for a bit longer? Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood Chen Feng's thoughts. However, she shook her head helplessly. I don't have a lot of poison powder. I'm afraid I can only hold on for a while. However, to deal with this huge tree is not something that can be done in a short period of time. I'm afraid we won't be able to hold on until then. Bailey Hongzhuang's bright eyes were filled with seriousness. Facing this, she felt extremely helpless. As her cultivation increased, she understood that it was extremely difficult to use poison to deal with cultivators. Hence, she did not bring too much with her. No one had expected that they would encounter such a situation after entering the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. At this moment it was too late for regrets. Hearing this, Chen Feng could not help but sigh. This was the best method he could think of at the moment. However, he was unable to implement it. After everyone found out that there was not much poison powder left, they felt despair in their hearts. Ever since they entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, everyone had been wandering around in despair. It was truly causing them to break down. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's spiritual sense surged as her hands formed seals without stop. One after another, complex and mysterious hand seals quietly appeared. Master. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's hand seals, Xiao He immediately realized what her master was doing. This was her master's trump card. If it was any other time, she would not be willing to reveal it so early in front of others. There is no other way now. No matter what, it's good to hold on for a while longer. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was solemn. She had already used up all the poison powder in her hands. It was likely that she would not be able to hold on for more than an instance's time. After an instance's time, everyone would fall into despair. At this time, how could she still care about hiding her trump card? When the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, they were also puzzled. Even if she wanted to attack, she should be standing at the periphery. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang standing at the center and using her hand seals? Only Xiao Souwu and Jun Lingxuan immediately understood what was going on. Last time, they had also seen Bailey Hongzhuang use such a hand seal. That gigantic Qilin lion beast was like a nightmare to them. Even now they still had lingering fears. Just as everyone was feeling puzzled, a door that seemed to have come from hell appeared before them. Black and crimson light intertwined, exuding a profound and strange aura. The endless mysterious aura instantly attracted everyone's attention. What method is this? Nangong Yuqing was puzzled. The door in front of him was solid, and didn't look like it was made of elemental energy. Even though the images they conjured with their origin energy were very realistic, there was still a gap between them and the current situation. Just as everyone was secretly guessing, a beastly roar suddenly came from the tightly shut door. Then the door suddenly opened. A majestic Qilin lion beast appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Its huge body exuded endless majesty. It was like a primordial beast with an incomparably tyrannical strength. Just one look was enough to make people feel fear. Chapter 5099. Qilin. It's actually a Qilin. Everyone cried out in alarm. Although they only knew the description of the Qilin, they had never seen it with their own eyes. However, at this moment, as they looked at the majestic and huge demonic beast in front of them, they were able to recognize it immediately. Heavens! Bailey Hongzhuang actually has a Qilin? That's too scary. That's impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang clearly has a contracted beast. Furthermore, from the way I see it, it doesn't seem like it came out from the contracted space. After a short moment of shock, everyone recovered from their shock. Their eyes were filled with contemplation. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe. However, even if they had seen it with their own eyes, the doubt in their hearts wouldn't disappear. Numerous gazes of admiration landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Just from the aura she was emitting, it was clear that she had reached the high level of the nebula realm. Such a contracted beast was simply everyone's dream. When Chu Yingming and Nangong Yuqing saw the Qilin, their hearts chilled. Fortunately, when Bailey Hongzhuang fought with them, she didn't use this ability. Otherwise, how could they be her match? How could they be Bailey Hongzhuang's match? Just this Qilin lion alone was enough to completely crush them. The gap between the two was too big. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such a trump card? With this, among all the cultivators who had entered the Immortal Cloud secret domain, there was no one who could be Bailey Hongzhuang's match. Chen Feng stared blankly at this scene. Suddenly, a thought appeared in his mind. A taboo technique. Taboo techniques were known as taboo, due to their extreme power. These taboo techniques were usually in the hands of a small number of cultivators. They had only read about them in books, but had never seen them before. As far as he knew, taboo techniques had disappeared many years ago. Similar to taboo cultivation methods, they had long disappeared from everyone's sight. He was sure that this Qilin wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang's demonic beast. Otherwise, she wouldn't have needed to use her hand seal. Therefore, he was sure that this was a taboo technique. When Chen Feng thought of this possibility, a trace of astonishment appeared in Chu Yingming's eyes. Could this be a forbidden technique? His cold voice was filled with shock and disbelief. Even though he was the one speaking, he was still doubting his own guess. As Chu Yingming's voice fell, the confused crowd seemed to have found a breakthrough point and immediately understood. That's right, this must be a forbidden technique. Only a taboo technique can be so powerful. Otherwise Bailey Hongzhuang would never have such a contract beast. I heard that taboo techniques are connected to taboo techniques. Since Bailey Hongzhuang is able to use taboo techniques, it proves that the technique she practices is a taboo technique. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. When they thought of the various powerful displays that Bailey Hongzhuang had displayed, they immediately understood. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang so outstanding even though she came from the lower realm? How could she learn so many abilities at the same time? This was something that no one could understand. However, after thinking about the taboo cultivation technique, they suddenly figured it out. Chapter 5100. It's rumored that the taboo technique has long disappeared. How did it fall into Bailey Hongzhuang's hands? For a moment, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with fervent gazes. This kind of method was really too enviable. Di Xiaofeng and the rest were also astonished. Previously, when they heard from Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue that Bailey Hongzhuang defeated the joint forces of Xiao Sou and the rest, they didn't believe it and thought it was a joke. Now that they saw such means, they understood that everything before was true. Such talent and strength were truly too terrifying. Facing everyone's gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't spare any attention to pay attention to them. With a thought, the Qilin lion received her command and started to deal with the demonic beasts together with everyone else. Everyone, don't be distracted. The most important thing now is to kill the demonic beasts. Qin Feng reminded everyone. Due to the Qilin lion's appearance being too shocking, a lot of cultivators were distracted. In this short period of time, several cultivators were injured. Everyone had to regain their senses as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the number of casualties increased, it would only be more troublesome. Hearing this, everyone also regained their senses. No matter how envious Bailey Hongzhuang's taboo technique was, they had to at least survive. After Bailey Hongzhuang summoned the Qilin lion, she didn't stop there. She was still trying to summon other demonic beasts. Now her cultivation had increased compared to before. Her spiritual energy had also increased a lot. Therefore, she still had the ability to summon another demonic beast. However, this demonic beast was naturally inferior to the Qilin lion. Next, under everyone's gaze, a huge centipede appeared. After the first shock, everyone calmed down. However, they felt more and more that Bailey Hongzhuang was powerful and terrifying. No wonder she didn't care about the position of the Holy Maiden. With her strength, everyone could imagine that it wouldn't be long before she reached a height that everyone could only look up to. Abnormal. This was simply too abnormal. With the appearance of the two demonic beasts, everyone immediately felt that the situation was more relaxed than before. After all, the Qilin lion was so powerful that it could wipe out a whole area the moment it appeared. This kind of hunting speed of demonic beasts was many times faster than theirs. Seeing that the situation was turning for the better, a trace of joy appeared on everyone's faces. When they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest again, they felt that these people were like an inexhaustible treasure. Every time they were in trouble, they could always come up with a better solution. If it wasn't for Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, they would have died. They wouldn't be able to hold on until now. If we can survive this time, if anyone dares to have any greedy thoughts towards Bailey Hongzhuang, I will be the first to punish them. Chen Feng's firm and resolute voice resounded in everyone's ears with a warning. He understood that if the situation was not too urgent, Bailey Hongzhuang would not be willing to reveal this secret in front of everyone. This was too enviable was too. Once this was spread out, it would bring Bailey Hongzhuang a lot of trouble. Therefore, regardless of whether his warning was effective or not, he had to make his stance clear. This was his decision. Chapter 5101. Along with Chen Feng's words, even the expressions of those who were in the midst of battle changed slightly. However, soon, everyone understood Chen Feng's intention. That's right. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't even be able to keep our lives. If anyone still dares to make a move against them, then they are truly worse than pigs and dogs. Yeah, they were the ones who saved our lives previously. As long as we can leave this place alive, no matter what, I will owe the D family a huge favor. The cultivators from the various powers expressed their opinions one after another. Although they had always been living in an environment where benefits were valued, at least they still had some humanity left in them. Regardless of whether the other party had saved them on purpose or not, it was a fact that they had been saved. This was not only due to the numerous dangers they were currently facing. A lot of them had already received the favor of Bailey Hongzhuang, and the others when they were still in the Radiant Ruins. It was just that they had never said it out loud all this while. Now that they heard Chen Feng's suggestion, the conscience in their hearts was awakened. The methods displayed by Bailey Hongzhuang were indeed very tempting. However, at least during this period of time, if they were to covet Bailey Hongzhuang's methods and make a move against him, it would truly be inexcusable. After one or two cultivators expressed their opinions, the other cultivators also expressed their opinions one after another. Emotions had always influenced each other. In a short period of time, all the cultivators had the same thoughts. After Jun Lingxuan and the others heard what everyone said, their expressions became unsightly. They were already enemies with Bewitching and the others. Previously, they had been hoping to kill them as soon as possible. Now that they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's methods, they naturally wanted to get their hands on this taboo art as soon as possible. However, all the cultivators had already expressed their opinions. If they still persisted with their previous thoughts, they would definitely be spurned by everyone. Hence, they could only maintain their silence. Xu Yingming's expression was flickering. He understood in his heart that no matter how one looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had helped them. However, who asked them to be their opponents? He regretted joining forces with Jun Lingxuan and the others to deal with Bewitching back then, which led to the current situation. After Bailey Hongzhuang summoned the two demon beasts, the situation of the battle turned for the better. Everyone relaxed a lot. Of course, this was only relative. The attacks of the demonic beasts were equally ferocious. The cultivators had to fend off the demonic beasts from all directions. Everything seemed to have returned to how it was in the past. He was constantly hunting demonic beasts and raising his cultivation at the same time. However, the situation didn't improve for long. The giant tree seemed to realize that it couldn't achieve its goal and suddenly became angry. That's right, he was furious. Even though the tree didn't do anything, everyone could clearly feel the change in the tree's mood. It was dissatisfied and expressed its feelings through the chant. Immediately after, everyone realized that the tree's chanting had become even louder. It carried an incomparably manic aura, and the entire sky seemed to have become oppressive. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but reveal a trace of fear on their faces. The giant tree's singing was too frightening. Even they felt that their emotions were affected. The demonic beasts seemed to have gone mad, and their attacks became even more terrifying. No one doubted that as long as they were distracted for a moment, they would be torn to pieces in an instant. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.